What's up, everybody? Cole Sands Fishing here. This is the fishing report for August 29th, 2022. Let's get into this week's report. So this week's report is brought to you by Tumlin Homes and Land Team, one of my awesome sponsors. If you're looking for a piece of property or home, around the Lake Chickamauga area, they'll get you results. Great people to work with as well, and I promise you'll be very satisfied with them. So y'all be sure to check them out, give them a like and a follow on Facebook as well. But so let's get into this week's report. It's definitely dog days of summer are here. It's hot. It's the end of August. But the fishing's been pretty good. I ran I think 5 guide trips this past week. One Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then two Thursday. So a pretty good week overall. Had some days that were definitely tougher, and had some days that were really good. But I think Monday we caught 43 fish. Had a 5.5 pounder was our biggest that day. Tuesday we caught 29 fish. That was a 9-hour trip, so we didn't catch a ton that day. Still decent numbers, but one of my clients did catch 1 over 6. So that's an awesome fish for August, especially. Wednesday was a half day electronics trip and learning trip. The morning bite was okay. We did have a 5 pounder. Probably caught, 18, 19 fish. And then the second half of the day, we talked about electronics and fish movement. And it was a little bit slower Wednesday for sure for us. And then Thursday, we caught a ton of fish. We caught 49 fish in the morning, and I had a 4-hour afternoon trip where we caught 35 fish. So we caught a ton of fish. Never had no real big ones Thursday. A few 3-pounders and several keepers, 2.5 pounders, but didn't catch a ton of, giants on Thursday, but still caught a ton of fish. Had a great time, and as long as you're catching a lot of fish in August, you're doing pretty good. So I was just overall really happy with the week. So real quick, I'm just going to break down what baits I caught them on, real quick, and kind of what I'm seeing and what I expect going forward. Because the grass is changing a little bit. They've lowered the water level just about a half a foot, which is probably going to speed up some of the grass bite as far as the grass mat bite goes. So I wouldn't even be surprised to see a frog bite start to turn on in the next few weeks. I've heard of some people catching them on it, but for me, it's still a little bit early. I'm not seeing quite the activity in the mats that I like to see yet. So real quick, I'm just going to run through the baits. One of my favorites, hardcore popper. I've been throwing that on mono lately, some just because these fish are so pressured, and if I'm throwing it around the grass pretty heavy, I do like 30-pound Yozuri braid, or even 40-pound Yozuri braid. But lately, kind of been throwing it on mono, just fishing it kind of over the grass. That's the Ghost Pearl Shad Killer. That's a killer. I've got a lot of big fish on it the past couple months. 610 medium heavy Witch Doctor Tackle Sermon Series, half glass, half graphite rod. I can't express how critical that is to fishing a topwater bait or really any treble hook bait, because this rod has such a great tip and a great backbone, so I have the strength to get them out of that grass, which is a huge thing. But you also have the tip, which makes sure they eat it good, and they're a whole lot less likely to throw it. So that popper's been good. I've been throwing the pencil popper from Yozuri some as well. And mixing in a couple of different topwater baits, like a buzz bait, like a whopper plopper style bait. It's got some good fish as well. But that popper is definitely, that hardcore popper is hard to beat this time of year. Another bait that's been killer around the grass, but kind of slowing down. Throwing the double deuce. I talked about this last week from Fishco. And they make several different colors. The one I've been throwing lately is just a green pumpkin color. This is one of my favorites. I'm actually saving this pack there for my next tournament. That's the orange, the crawl orange swirl, which is almost got like a green pumpkin and an orange swirl going on in it. And something about that color they seem to really like on Chickamauga. But pretty simple setup here. I got a 7.2 medium heavy Shaman Series Witch Doctor Tackle rod. Throwing it on 16-pound T7 Yozuri fluorocarbon. Got a high gear ratio reel because a lot of the fish have been swimming straight at us when they bite. But I'm just throwing an 1/8 ounce tungsten weight, no peg on it. I usually peg my baits, but I'm having to go to really finesse tactics, it seems like, to get bites right now. And if you don't peg it, it almost works as kind of a Carolina rig because that weight will slide down. And what I'm doing with this double deuce, I'm putting a little blade on the back. And I was throwing a willow leaf, but I actually switched to a Colorado blade. It's just a little screw-in blade, and it makes this thing fall really slow. I mean, it's an 1/8 ounce anyways weight that I'm throwing, so that slows it down a lot. But what happens when throwing that weight without a slip sinker, it slides up the line, and because you have this blade back here, this Colorado blade, really slowing the fall down. So this slides way down the line, and this thing's just kind of trickling behind. Looks super realistic. You know, it looks like a, well, I don't know actually what it looks like, but I just think, you know, they're eating a lot of bait fish that are this size right now. So I think that blade gets their attention. And then that double deuce is just the perfect bait for doing this because the plastic just holds that blade in there so well. I have yet to lose a blade, and I've been throwing this for about 2 weeks. So it's perfect for that. You catch several fish on it. And as far as the hook goes, just a little 3/0 hook. I've even thought about going to the little bit smaller one, just their normal little deuce, but that right there is just seems to be the perfect size to catch numbers and quality. That's something that I've been doing just a little bit different lately. That's definitely put several good fish in the boat. And I also got a lot of bites. Let's see what else. Still catching several fish on the Niko rig. Caught fish out deep this week on it and up shallow. Green pumpkin blue swirl, that's my go-to color. And that's the 8-inch Fishco finesse worm. Putting a little 3/32 ounce weight in there. If I'm fishing deep, I'm not taking any weight off it. But if I go up in the grass, a lot of times I'll stick that little bullet. You know, I'm shoving a little nail weight in there. I'll just cut like a little section off, probably about that big, and just slow down that rate of fall a little bit. 10-pound braid to a 10-pound Yozuri T7 fluorocarbon leader. And this is a 7.2 medium action Shaman series rod. And if you've never used these rods from Witch Doctor Tackle, they're super sensitive, which is huge for this bite, especially when I'm fishing really deep in like 20 foot. And that braid, that Yozuri braid is critical in that too. But I mean, you feel the super, you know, subtle bites that, you know, you might not detect on other rods. But that is an awesome setup, and that's caught a lot of fish for us all summer long, really. I'm actually excited. I caught a few on a jig this week. Not very many, but the quality was pretty good. I haven't been able to get on a good jig bite since about July. And that's something I really like to throw in the grass, around the grass, swim it through the grass. That's a very versatile bait. Been throwing that on a 7.2 heavy Witch Doctor Tackle Shaman series rod, 20-pound T7 Yozuri fluorocarbon, and I like a pretty high gear ratio reel for this, like a 7. I think it's a 7.3 to 1. Yeah, it is. And that's a bad dude right there when it comes to catching some good fish. So that's been a bait that I've caught a few on this past week. Like I said, I didn't kill them on it, but I caught some good quality. And then last but not least, one of my favorites is, actually not last because we have been catching. I'll go ahead and talk about this one first. Punch and bite. There is a punch and bite going on. It's not easy. It's not fast paced, but you can catch some good ones doing it. Did that a little bit one afternoon this week. I dropped my clients off, went back out and just tried to find a little bit of a punch and bite. Caught a few. Throwing the Fishco Crawdad. That's been or the Crawdad's the name of this color. This is the Creature Crawl, is the bait. Crawdad's the color. Caught a few on that. Hematoma's been a good one as well. Something I do with this bait, it's a pretty big profile bait, but it matches the bluegill really well, I feel like, that are in the grass mats that those really big ones are eating. A lot of times what I'll do, it comes like this from the package. A lot of times I'll rip the arms off, and sometimes I'll even take these tentacles off, just to give it a more of a streamlined approach going through the grass mat. Just, you know, anything like that can help. I have had to go up to 1.25 ounces. Usually 1.25 ounces is what I flip, but I've had to go up to even a 2 ounce getting through some of the mats lately because they're still pretty thick. And when I'm punching mats, I'm not punching way back in them for the most part. I'm punching, 2-3 feet, from the edge. And like I said, it's not been great, but you're catching a few fish. And then last but not least now is just the drop shot. Throwing that on a 3/16 ounce lead weight. I don't throw tungsten a ton on a drop shot, just it can get pretty pricey. And, I feel like it's not always necessary. But just taking a 1/0, this is a 1/0 owner what is this? 1/0 owner cover shot hook. And it's the perfect drop shot hook for doing what I'm doing. I'm not sponsored by them, but I've thrown a lot of different drop shot hooks on this lake and experimented a lot, and this is the go-to. I lose way less fish. I'm not worried about them bending it out, but I'm taking my 6-inch finesse worm from Fishco. Peanut butter jelly has been the killer lately, and it just seems to get a better quality bite a lot of times. For whatever reason, that color just gets a little bit better quality. But just Texas rigging it, you know, hooking it maybe 1/8 of an inch in there, running it up past that little keeper. These hooks have a little fluorocarbon keeper on there. Sometimes I'll even stick that keeper out to keep it up there, so it's in there good and secure. And I'm throwing this around wood, I'm throwing this around brush, I'm throwing this around bait, I'm throwing this around grass. I mean, just everything. I always have one of these tied on. And then just Texas rigging it basically. And that way you can throw it anywhere, you don't have to worry about getting hung. And you still got a little clearance there to get a good hook set in them. But that is a beautiful color that the fish have really been eating lately. And as far as the setup goes, 7.2 medium action witch doctor tackle rod, 10-pound braid to a 10-pound fluoro leader. And a big thing with this too is when you set the hook with this bait, don't set the hook just as hard as you possibly can. Reel down to them and just pull back and reel that slack out as fast as you can, and you will catch them 99% of the time. It's when you set the hook really hard or do something like that, you might break off or you might pop their mouth open and not hook them that good. So with that drop shot, you know, just reel into them really quick and you'll hook them just about every time and put them in the boat. But that's it for this week as far as the baits go. What I'm seeing out there, it seemed like this past week you could catch better size probably on the main lake for the most part. With that being said, we did have a couple big ones in the creeks, but seems like the numbers are probably a little bit better in the creeks, or you know, right off the main river at least. But on some of those main lake flats, it seems like there's some really good fish right now if you can get in a bite. It seems like there's a little bit of a weird transition going on right now in some areas where I know there's fish there, but for some reason they're just not active yet. But it's any day now. That fall feeding frenzy is just, you know, days away from happening. It's happening on certain parts of the lake, and it is day to day. But you know, it's really close to being really good. So main thing I've been targeting though is still grass, mostly submerged grass, or if it's not submerged, more of the edges of the grass mats. And one more bait I almost forgot to tell you all about. I tied this on Thursday and caught a ton of fish on it. And that was the True Bass 3.5 inch, the minnow is what they call it. And that's a true blue color. And I tied this on because I was looking at the bait fish they were eating, and they were little. I mean, they're actually probably even a little bit smaller than that. But what I did, which I might not have in here, I'm just taking a little jig head, an 1/8 ounce jig head, screw with a screw lock on it, putting it on there, and I got it on, I think it's 14-pound Yozuri T7. I'm actually throwing it on a bait caster just because I feel like I have a little bit more control. But I was throwing that around the grass because it just mimics the bait so well. And Thursday morning, I probably caught 15 fish on it and caught a few in the afternoon on it that day as well. But that's definitely going to be something I'm going to start throwing a lot because it caught a lot of fish and it mimicked the bait fish profile perfectly. So that's definitely something I'd keep in your arsenal coming up. I have been throwing the 4-inch as well, throwing this on a weedless hook and kind of burning it more around the grass. And that's been a good color out here as well. That's Bass Whacker. True Blue, Green Bean, and there's another color. I don't have one hanging out, but it's more of a translucent color that's been really well, worked really well lately is also. So something else to keep in mind if you know you're coming to Lake Chickamauga, you're fishing this week, that small swim bait has been a killer. But that's it for this week's fishing report. I appreciate y'all a ton for the support, watching my videos, and I'll catch y'all next time.